So recently I actually came across this post on the forum Hair Loss Talk where this guy was actually talking about how a cure for hair loss, let alone a better form of treatment, and how it wasn't really going to happen and that we're just all going to be doomed, and how the big three is still going to be the way to go even 20 years from now. And he actually did a poll which was done in the post, and it showed that over 56% believed in a cure or better treatment within 5 years, and only about 10% felt that it would take longer than 40 years for it to happen. And I actually did a similar poll on my website or on my YouTube channel, and over 40% of the people that participated said that they think a cure is never going to happen. And I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of you guys who also feel the same way, you know. Some say that hair loss is never going to get cured, or that we're never ever going to find a better hair loss treatment to replace minoxidil, finasteride, dutasteride. You know, the hair industry is just making so much money off of balding men that there really wouldn't be any financial incentive once a hair loss cure is established. And I feel like, you know, this is somewhat true. You know, we have pharmaceutical companies, especially Merck, which they're the ones that sell Propecia and Proscar, and they actually make hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars each year. We have Rogaine, which also make millions of dollars selling their minoxidil topical and foam version. And just think about all of the hair transplant clinics and biotech companies and pharmaceuticals that would eventually go out of business if a cure actually does happen. So it's totally reasonable to be skeptical on some of these past, you know, biopharma tech companies, especially, I don't know if you guys remember, but Chernoff and Broad Solution, which didn't really seem to deliver. And we're also in the dark in a lot of these treatments in the pipelines with unknown mechanisms, unforeseen long-term side effects, and there's just so many other factors that can make one skeptical about a cure or better form of hair loss treatment. So in this video, I actually wanted to give you guys my 2 cents and my thought and my opinion regarding this matter, since many of you guys always seem to ask me when I think a hair loss cure is going to happen, or if a better form of treatment to replace minoxidil and finasteride is going to happen, since there's so many skeptics, like I said, about a cure ever happening. Before I get started, I just wanted to let you guys know that this is simply my opinion. It's simply gathered from research and just my own thoughts, so please take it with a grain of salt. Now, first off, I think that we are making great progress in the world regarding hair loss. 50, 60 years back, you know, all we had were just hair pieces. And as technology started advancing and progressing, we were introduced to the first hair transplantation regarding plugs. And although they really weren't much of an improvement aesthetically and in terms of quality, I still want to believe that it was actually a huge stepping stone that led to further developments. We then progressed into the introduction of minoxidil and finasteride. We also have dutasteride, which is off-label, but we have FUT strip surgery. We now have FUE, we have DHI, body hair transplants, SMP, and we just continue to strive for better treatments and for possible cures. And this is reflective in a lot of the companies that we see. So we have a lot of companies in the pipelines with their research regarding stem cells, trying to perfect the ability to replicate follicles indefinitely, which would eventually be the ultimate cure to hair loss. If we have an infinite supply of hair follicles, we can just go ahead and implant them. We have a lot of other companies who are looking for better topical replacements for minoxidil and finasteride. So we are always advancing each step towards better treatments and for ways to replicate, like I said, stem cells, to have an infinite number of donor supply. And even if these companies fail, there's still a lot of merit in running these clinical trials and seeing various results, whether they're disappointing or not. And I say this because data that we obtain from these studies enable us to learn something new about the problem or why a certain clinical trial didn't turn out the way that it did, which in turn helps these, you know, doctors and scientists advance with new ways to overcome the problems that they face so that they can get a closer step to curing hair loss. And I feel like the best indication that we have so far are the numerous companies who are currently in various phases and clinical trials. And as most of you guys are familiar with, we have Replacel and Shiseido, we have Dr. Suji and Riken, Histogen, Folica, Breezula, Salmomed, Follicum, etc. There's so many other, you know, companies, and I'm far the most optimistic with Dr. Suji and his stem cell multiplication to create hair follicle germs, and Shiseido's RCH01. Now, Dr. Suji was a bit disappointing in the sense that human clinical trials did not really happen early this year as we expected, and we're you know, looking for a launch for commercialization towards the end of 2020. but that kind of seems to be out of the window, at least partially. The good news is that we have Japan, which has a conditional approval pathway for 7 years, where cell therapeutics can actually be approved based on data confirming safety and efficacy through a single small-scale clinical trial. So Dr. Tsuji's treatment efficacy can actually be evaluated after less than 3 months. So in the event that they start human clinical trials beginning in 2020 and they don't run into any issues, they technically could finish sometime mid-2020 and launch for commercialization. And obviously this would be the best case scenario, and the other aspect of this is the fact that we don't know if the treatment is only going to be available for Japanese citizens during this whole conditional approval, since it's just going to be open to the Japanese market. And I really don't know if foreigners would qualify for the treatment. And I'm leaning towards the fact that it's not going to be available for foreigners and it's going to be available just for Japanese citizens, since people who are receiving these treatments need to be monitored and followed up with updates and such. If you guys are residing outside of Japan, it's going to make it so much more difficult to follow up. And I doubt that Dr. Tsuji and his company would want to risk a protocol violation until the conditional approval is going to be completed. Now, luckily, I feel like it's not going to take the whole 7 years. And I would say that if everything succeeds, I can see that it's going to be finally out by 2025 for the whole public. If the human clinical trials fail, then God knows how long before we even get this far again. So let's keep our fingers crossed. We also have Shiseido's RCH01 treatment using derma sheath cup cells with the efficacy of not only minimizing hair loss, but also increasing the density, and there is no known side effects so far, which should be also out for conditional release given that Japanese laws after phase 2 results. Phase 2 results should be released in the next couple months, and this was actually based on an email from Dr. Suboi, who is the lead researcher. I expect something to be released sometime by 2022, since the current plan anticipates the potential for all 4 of their products on the market, which also includes their derma injector, in Japan by 2022. And Shiseido even already has a cell manufacturing process for derma sheath cup cells in Kobe. So obviously, this is all very optimistic news, and it sounds like Repicel may also be able to release the product earlier if Shiseido decides not to do so. Now with Follica, I am just so disappointed with Follica. Actually, I'm very disappointed. Their approach is simply micro-wounding and a patented topical treatment that, without us even knowing what their proprietary topical ingredient consists of, it's not going to be a cure for hair loss. And I just wonder how much more fine-tuning that they need before commercialization. And it always seems that they're always, optimizing for the past 10, 15 years or whatever it is. So I really don't have high expectations anytime soon. We have Breezula. So Breezula is a topical anti-androgen for androgenic alopecia. And we actually had very good positive phase 2 results. And I feel that it should at least be as effective as finasteride and minoxidil without the systemic side effects. And that's the main point. Their plan is to proceed with a 6-month phase 3 trial towards the end of 2019. And if FDA is approved, it's going to be actually the first topical and anti-androgen for treating androgenic alopecia. They're also releasing a product with the same active ingredient for the treatment of acne, obviously at a lower concentration. So, this whole topical is more of a maintenance type of treatment, but nevertheless, it's better than finasteride and minoxidil in the sense that there are no side effects. It actually doesn't interfere with testosterone, meaning, there is not going to be any sexual side effects. So for this one, I'm actually looking more towards 2020 to 2022 as well. And I don't see any issues for them commercializing and getting their FDA approval. So guys, that's pretty much it. I think I am going to wrap it up here before this video gets any longer. I don't want to go through each treatment and every treatment and just, go through their different clinical trials. I just kind of wanted to get the main ones out, the ones that I kind of feel like would get approved for the treatment of androgenic alopecia sooner than later. And obviously the ones that are involving cell therapeutics and stem cell multiplication. I'm cautiously optimistic, and I just feel that in a few years, there's going to be better replacements for hair loss and ongoing stem cell replication and gene editing. I feel that a cure is closer than ever. So I don't know exactly when this date's going to be, but I can safely say that this generation, we are going to see more technological advancement in our lifetime. And I'm also very confident that there is likely to be an advancement to treating hair loss within our lifetime. So like I said, I want to give a time frame of anywhere from 2023 to 2025. But let me know what you guys think. If you guys like this video, if you guys like this type of content, give it a thumbs up. Let me know what your thoughts are. Or if you guys want to share and let me know exactly when you think a hair loss cure is going to happen, please feel free to leave that in the description section below. And thanks for everything. I will talk to you guys next time. Take care.